Hello everyone, I'm here with my friend Jane to talk today about the H1B work visa process. It's important to know that this is the process as of right now, September 2024. Jane is not an attorney, legal expert, or trained in the law, and this is not legal advice, but simply an overview of someone's experience that has been working in the field for 14 years. The point of this video is to go over immigration and obtaining a work visa from a higher level and some of the more common questions companies have that aren't familiar with it. Jane, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I am a global mobility manager for an international Fortune 500 company. Global mobility is a function of HR, and we work with people all around the world to move them around, handling everything from immigration and taxes to helping them find housing. A big part of my role is to manage the immigration processes. I've been working in immigration for 14 years now.
The most common work visa for the US we'll discuss is the H1B visa. So I think we should start by talking about the process of obtaining that visa from the very beginning. Transfer someone that already has an existing H1B visa and common questions hiring managers have.
The H1B visa is a temporary work visa available to U.S. employees. They are sponsored by employers, so they are employer-specific, job-specific, and location-specific. The government gives them out in lottery system, now they're calling it a registration, every year. And lately it's been happening in March. Companies submit registrations and then they are selected by their passport number. There are 85,000 total spots in the lottery, and it's usually about a 20 to 40% chance you'll be selected. Of the 85,000 lottery spots, 65,000 go to anybody who has a bachelor's degree or higher, and 20,000 go to anyone who has a U.S. master's degree or higher. End of March or April is when the results come out. I think this year they got 450,000 applications for 85,000 spots. If it's a new H-1B and not a visa transfer, once you're selected, you can't start working until October 1st. Students have a little caveat called a cap gap, where they're able to work during that time, even if their student visa expires. They have something that allows them to bridge the gap between when the student visa expires and when the H-1B is starting, as long as you're selected. A student visa is one of the more common visa transfers we'll deal with. Those are called OPT visas, optional practical training. 12 months are given initially when someone graduates from a U.S. degree program, whether it's a bachelor's, master's, or PhD. Then, if you qualify in a STEM field, you're eligible to apply for a 24-month extension. It's not a lottery, just a simple extension. That's all applied for through the school. So the school gives the okay, the student does the paperwork, and then they send it out to the government. The government then produces an EAD, which is an employment authorization document.
I usually run into candidates on their OPT who want to start the H1B process right away because it is a lottery, so they want to take those 1 to 3 years to try and get the H1B, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we work here, and most companies I've worked at, is if we're hiring someone on an OPT, we want to start as soon as we can for the lottery, because it is a lottery, so we don't know if it's going to happen, and the company's taking a risk by hiring someone they're going to invest in them for 1 to 3 years. We usually want to keep that person, so I always try to encourage starting the H1B process as soon as possible.
I have a question on this. If someone is on an OPT with their 3-year STEM extension and they receive their H1B the first try on year 1, can they still use the remaining years left on their OPT extension and delay their H1B? Or does it start right away?
Great question. Say they get the H1B year 1 while still on their OPT. They can use those 2 years of final OPT to delay their H1B so they have it for longer. That's why I always encourage my companies to start the H1B process right away, even if the employee still has eligibility with their OPT. So, say this year, 2024, a student is on the first year of their OPT and they get the H1B. Then for the next 2 years, they're on the OPT STEM extension until 2026. So then the H1B would technically expire after 1 year of them officially being on it in 2027. But then they can add those 2 years to the back end that they were using their OPT, so they can use it for 3 full years.
One of the most common questions I get from hiring managers is, I've never sponsored someone before, are there salary requirements around that?
The H1B is location and job specific, and the reason is because there's something called prevailing wage that is for every H1B visa. When you're filing an H1B, you have to submit something called a labor condition application to the Department of Labor. That is an application that says, here's the position, the location, and years of experience of the person we would like to sponsor. The easiest way to employ someone that requires an H1B visa is hiring someone that already has an approved H1B, and all you're doing is transferring their existing H1B visa so they don't have to go through the lottery again.
So to summarize, OPT visa is a work authorization that international students receive from their school, which authorizes them to work in the US upon graduating for 12 months. If they studied in a STEM field, they can apply for an additional 24-month extension. H1B visa is the most common working visa. Candidates need to go through a lottery system to obtain one. Lottery happens in the spring. If selected, you aren't authorized to start to working under that visa until October 1st. Visa is valid for 3 years, then the candidate can apply for an additional 3 years for 6 years total. After 6 total years on the visa, candidate either needs to be in some sort of process towards becoming a permanent resident or leave the country for 1 year before being eligible to apply for the H1B visa again. H1B visa holders are allowed to switch jobs. The new company would just need to transfer the employee's existing H1B to their company.